guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're going to get into part 2 of restoring a hand plane. Well, last week we ran into a little bit of overtime and the video was getting a little long, and because of that I had to chop it, and that's okay, it creates this week's video. So without any further ado, let's get into it. That is unbelievable. I'm still going to have to mill this and flatten it, and with some wet sanding and whatever, but from what it was to what it is now, holy crow, this is spectacular. Well, I've just put the plane back together temporarily with the old handles because this next process is going to be kind of messy. But I mean, I'm already blown away by the change in this particular unit. Once I get the sides and the bottom of the sole done, it's going to be like night and day. So now what I'm going to do is take a piece of wet dry sandpaper and I'm going to mount it onto a piece of 3/4 MDF just to make sure that it's nice and flat, and then I'm going to go ahead and start trying to straighten out the sole of this plane. Well, I had said pretty much at the beginning of this video that this is all new and this is all an experiment to me, and I'm just going to tell you something that I learned and pass that little tidbit on to you, and that is when you're working on this stuff, you may want to wear gloves. I mean, my fingers are stained like there's no tomorrow, and no amount of hand cleaner seems to want to take it off. So anyway, now that I've got blackened hands, we will carry on. And I've got some wet dry sandpaper here. For now, this here is just a 400 grit. It may be a bit light, I don't know. But I'm going to try it on the sides of the plane and just see how we make out. I've got a little bit of like a soapy water solution here for lubrication. And basically I'm just going to put the plane on its side here, and I'm going to work it until I get it to a level that I'm happy with it as far as its finish, its flatness, and its polish goes. So here we go. I'm not going to film all of this, guys. Who knows how long it could be. Alright, so at some point in time you need to decide how far you want to go. I've done this one here to 1500, and I mean, you can see the reflection of the camera in it. This is crazy, but you know what, I really dig it. It's really cool. So I'm going to finish this off here. Probably just seal it with a nice coat of wax. And then from there we're going to flip down to the bottom, and we're going to attack this and go for the flatness on the bottom of this sole. Well, like I said, I've got this up to 1500 grit now, and it's highly polished. It looks great. Now we're going to flatten the bottom, and what I've got here is some 220 grit, just regular sandpaper, and I'm going to use that to take the majority of the material off of the bottom. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark some hash marks across the bottom with a marker, and then start working the plane on the sandpaper and see exactly where my high and my low spots are. We can see there already that the outsides appear to be high and the middle is low. So I'm going to keep going until all those marks are gone, and then I'll polish it up like the sides. Alright, I've started stripping this down again, and I've got the sole of this flattened, and you know, I took this one down, not as shiny as the sides, but still I went to 1,000 on the bottom. It's nice and smooth. I've given it all the protective coat of wax, and now I'm going to strip it off, all the parts, and what I'm going to do then is mask it off and give it just a refresher coat of spray paint. So in the meantime though, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this chip breaker and I just want to flatten out this leading edge of it here. So I'm just going to place it here on the sandpaper, and just as if I was sharpening the blade, I'm just going to work it back and forth just to flatten the edge here where it contacts the blade. Well, truth be told, that didn't work so well. So I ended up putting the chip breaker into my honing guide for doing my chisels and set it to the right angle, and I ended up flattening off the end there, and I've tested it with a straight edge, and it's nice and flat, so it should sit perfectly flat to the iron. So with that now, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll start working on the iron. So what I've done is I've taken the chip breaker and the iron, and I've just taken it over to the brass wheel and just given a little bit of a polish. I mean, it's still not perfect, but it's way better than what it was. If you look at the before and after pictures, I mean, it's unbelievable. So this now, if you remember, we flattened the edge of the chip breaker, and I gotta tell you, it sits really nicely there on the edge of the iron. So that should really help to prevent any chips from getting wedged up underneath this now. So with that being said, now we're going to go ahead and sharpen the iron itself. And I think with this one I'm going to go a 30-degree bevel with possibly a 35-degree micro bevel. Alright, well I've got the chip breaker, like I said before, straightened out, and I just want to show you guys how well of a seal that makes there on the blade. I mean, that is nice and tight. Nothing's going to get up underneath that. As well, like I said, I've sharpened the blade, and I mean, what I did was I lapped the back, but only about the first ½ an inch, and then as well I sharpened, I reground the bevel to a 30. This one was actually at 25. But I reground it to 30 and then put a little bit of a micro bevel on the end, and I can tell you it's sharp, that's for sure. Wouldn't want to mess with it now. Anyway, let's move on and see how we make out. Well, I'd like to give this a coat of paint just to clean it up. So we're gonna go ahead and with some blue painter's tape here, we're gonna mask off all the areas that we don't want to see covered in paint. And then I'm going to take it outside there and give it a little blast with some gloss black spray paint. And there we have it. The masking is all done. And we'll just give it a little freshening up with some black spray paint. And with that, a little bit of spray paint has been added, and we'll just wait for that to dry, and when we come back we'll peel off the masking and move on from there in the home stretch. The next thing I'd like to get accomplished while we're waiting for the spray paint to dry is I'd like to start getting a finish on the front knob and the tote. And for that, I'm just going to use several coats of a high gloss spray lacquer. Well, something I've noticed while looking at these parts is an issue that we're going to have with the chip breaker. And what that issue is at this point in time is that this surface up here is not square to these sides. And the problem that creates, of course, is once this chip breaker mounts and mates with your blade, this edge here of your chip breaker should be parallel with the bevel of your blade. Now my blade has been ground so that it's square, but this isn't, which makes it pretty much impossible to have the sides of your chip breaker align with your sides of your blade, but as well have this parallel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this over to the vise, and I'm going to put a square on it, and whichever side is high, I'm just going to gently tap it down with a block of wood and a hammer until we get this back to square. Now, of course, that means I'm going to have to regrind this back edge so that it mates nicely with the blade, but without this being square to the bevel of the blade, it could cause some problems when trying to cut with it. So like I said, we've got our square here, and it's actually high on this side. So we're just going to take a little block of wood here and just give it a couple taps and check it. And it needs more. So same process. And we're just going to keep repeating this until we get this back to square. Okay, I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but basically the blade is now square with the chip breaker. We've repaired this chip breaker. Hammering down like that didn't really work as well as I would have liked it to, so I ended up grinding this flat off the end and then rebeveling the edge to get a proper mating with the blade afterwards. So now with that being done, I guess we're going to go ahead and start putting some of this plane back together. Before I can get this plane put back together, there's still the issue of this leveling lever that has come off. The original pin rivet has separated here, and I think what I'm going to try to do is get this lever in here, and I'm going to re-peen that rivet to get this to hold in together properly. And now with that put back in place, we'll now carry on and attach the frog to the body of the plane here using the original hardware that we cleaned up in part 1 of this 2-part series. So we'll just go ahead and attach the frog in here, and once we get her tightened down, we'll align it with the mouth of the sole and try to minimize the amount of chatter that could be caused by lack of blade support. So we'll just line that up there, and once we get that in place, we'll tighten it all down. Before you go tightening the frog down, you just want to make sure that you have your frog adjustment hardware and bolt all put into place in the back end of the frog here. So I'll go ahead and assemble that, and then we're going to move on. So now that we have all that together, we just need to get our little brass adjustment knob put back into place here, and of course this is for the extension and retraction of the blade. So we'll just screw that into place. You can see there how it's going on there, and that's it for that. Now I guess we can move on to putting the new handle or the new knob and the new tote on. And there we go, and I guess now it's time for the blade and the lever cap. Okay, now it's time to test this out, and you can see I've been playing with it a bit, but I'm sure I'm still going to have to make some more adjustments, but I don't know if you can see that or not. But this thing is working beautifully. It's taking off long, even shavings, and I know that this is just pine, but I'm only just testing the plane for now. But I just want you guys to see this. Full length shavings, the full length of the board, and I mean, it's working beautifully. I might adjust the chip breaker just a little bit once I test it on a wider board, but I mean, for now, I'm going to mark this up as a complete and total 100% success. And there you have it. Good God, what an awesome project. Guys, you got to try this. If you got an old junker plane that's sitting around that you don't use, you got to try to restore it. I mean, you don't have to go as crazy as what I did with the 1500 grit. Let me tell you, I took a lot of flack for that online. One guy even saying that it's proof you could polish a turd because of the type of plane that it was. Guys, if I can do this with a low-grade footprint plane, imagine what I could do with an older Stanley or one of higher quality. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm glad I tried it because I had a great time with it. So guys, I just want to show you the before and after here. This is the before, and this is the after. Are you kidding me? Why wouldn't you do this? Guys, this is an awesome project, and this is going to open up a whole new Pandora's box for me as far as hand tools go. What have I gotten myself into? Guys, thanks for watching, and I'm going to see you again next week with yet another woodworking video.